come once again to discuss things.
It is I, the one, the only. Ready to get into this?
Yeah, man, let's go.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is a special guest, Alfie, aka Geek for Fun. Hello.
Hello there, Sid. Absolutely perfect to be here.
Yeah. Alfie's guy I just met through Twitter, and, you know, he and I talk on there occasionally, and there's been a topic that has come up in several conversations we've had. And since Steve has had, like, a really hard time scheduling out to do these character analysis videos, I figured we'd just, you know, record one with Alfie and I. So we're going to talk about what?
We're going to talk about Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely just... She can't seem to get everywhere now. Now she's in these videos.
Yeah, you know, Harley Quinn's all over the place. Okay, so for those that don't know, because they've just now, you know, got saved from a deserted island that they've been stuck on since, like, the very early 90s. Harley Quinn is a character introduced in Batman the Animated Series as just one of Joker's henchmen, henchgirls, sidekick kind of things. And she kind of took off in popularity on that show and got her own episodes and everything. And in the early 2000s, they even introduced her in the comics. And she's kind of gone on from there. She's been in Suicide Squad. She had her first, you know, major film debut in the live-action Suicide Squad movie. And she is a character of relative note, and, you know, she's pretty well beloved in the fan community. Even though, and this is what should make a conversation about Harley Quinn very interesting, no one can really agree on, like, consistent things about her.
Yeah, it's like... We've had so many different interpretations, even in the episodes, where sometimes she will be introduced as just another henchwoman, and then sometimes she'll be a potential love interest for the Joker. We have so many different, and then we get to the comic books, and that's a whole story which we're going to get into. It's like, we've never had a definitive Harley in something that has, I suppose because of the recentness of the character being so beloved and so popular, we've never had a chance to really have a fandom iron out exactly it is which makes Harley Harley.
Yeah, and it's really weird, and so, like, I generally like to consider myself a fan of the character. Not like, she's not one of my tops or anything, but
yeah.
I do like Harley Quinn, but at the same time, there's such little good Harley Quinn that actually works to my tastes out there. And that annoys me. Like, and, you know, I've talked about this before. I don't think Harley Quinn has ever had a good origin. Like, even in Batman the Animated Series, like, that's the best one, but it's still kind of like if.
And then she's just...
yeah.
The smutton. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't think she's ever had a good origin. There are very few Harley Quinn stories in the comics that I like. You know, I rave up and down about Bombshells. Harley Quinn's still the weakest part about Bombshells to me. Just in character design, costuming, and, you know, she's written like Harley Quinn, and she's in a relationship with Ivy, and that's well and good and all, but it's just not particularly interesting.
That's fair.
So, she's just one of those characters who, like, everyone kind of likes, but she hasn't really had a lot of stuff that, like, you can say is just fundamentally high quality.
Yeah, I suppose it's... Whenever we get... it's rare to have a supporting character for a villain.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we introduce her as intrinsically linked to the Joker, and therefore she's in a lot of good Joker stories, but we never really have Harley go out on her own in Gotham versus Batman, like one-on-one, like a lot of the other Rose Gallery does. So it's hard to get a read on what she actually is outside of a Suicide Squad member, the Joker, etc., Harley. She's always attached to something, be it Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
She's never really a unique, on her own villain.
And actually, that's the thing I kind of like about her, and I feel like her stories get very weak when they try to make Harley independent. And I think, sadly, the rush to make Harley, like, independent and strong is they want her to be, like, in ways, a role model. And I never want that to happen.
Yeah,
I never want
terrible.
people to look up to Harley Quinn.
It's, like, I see, you see the superhero girls, I think it's the TV show or something.
Mm-hmm.
She's, like, roommates with Wonder Woman. And the thought that Harley Quinn, even in the animated series, is an irredeemable psychopath who, like, tortures Tim Drake and causes him to have a mental breakdown in his 40s. She's, like, easily disregards the sanctity of human life. We can't make that as clear as possible. She's not to be looked up to.
Yeah, and see, I don't know if I'd go so far as, like, she's a psychopath herself. Like,
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit of an exaggeration.
you ever watch Dexter?
I've watched about 2 episodes of Dexter. Never got really.
Okay. Well, like, I just remember, there was this one episode of Dexter where it does a flashback to when his adoptive father, was teaching him how to kill people. And, like, his father knew it was the right thing for him and all this stuff as, like, this twisted kind of character. But at the same time, he still didn't take pleasure in seeing his son murder people. So, like, there's this really awkward scene where, like, Dexter goes, "Hey, Dad," like, he's just, like, a kid having a great time. It's like, "Dad, I built a birdhouse," kind of thing. And he shows his dad, like, a bucket of entrails, and his dad just, like, throws up. That's kind of how I think Harley should be toward the Joker in a lot of situations. Of just, she's accepting of his really horrible behavior because he's all that she has in the world, and yet she doesn't embrace it. So, like, with the Tim Drake thing in Batman Beyond, yeah, she will sit there and actively help Joker torment a person and do all these things because fundamentally I think she is an enabler, but she's not a doer when it comes to a lot of this sick behavior.
That sounds good.
And yeah, I don't like when they try to set her out on her own and all that stuff. I feel like I've talked about this a lot, but I feel like when people write Harley, they should always write her in some way attached to the Joker, even if she's, like, trying to get over him. Because I don't mind that, the idea of Harley trying to get over the Joker. But, like, the Joker to me always needs to be kind of like the Wizard of Oz, where even if we don't see him, there's still some reference, there's still something about her story that revolves around him in one way, shape, or form, because her whole life does, and that's the part that makes her tragic and interesting, and we rarely do that, and I don't like that about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. To go to your earlier point about how she's an enabler, it brings me up to, the line where she's talking to Batman, and in the animated series, and she says he doesn't mind all the murder because to her it's just a joke. Which I like is that the Joker always, he's like, in some interpretations, and ones I like as well, he's putting on a performance. He's making a show of things. He's trying to make a message, or he's just doing it for gags. Harley's the one who gets the joke.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not, it's like when you, a really extreme example, it's when you hear a raunchy joke, and you laugh, and then you feel bad for doing it, which is what the audience feels to the Joker. Harley's kind of the surrogate for that. She's the person who laughs and then feels bad about it later.
Yeah, I definitely agree. She is one of these characters, and, like, there's so many interesting things to do with her and to play around with ideas of, abusive relationships and just, like, fundamentally there's so many different things that you could do here. But unfortunately, people just don't. I don't know why people avoid this take on her, because it always just seems intrinsically more interesting than what we see with her.
Yeah, especially because it's so tied to the character. Like, she's a psychiatrist. Psychology is in her origin. Why aren't we talking about this more?
Definitely. And, it's just like the idea that she tries to go off and be independent. If she was ever to go off and be independent, then she can't still jokerize herself. Like, that's just a fundamental thing. She was a successful person who's on track to have a good life, and she threw it all away for a man. Importantly, a man who does not give a fuck about her.
Yeah.
She is, and that's another thing. Yes, every Harley story should revolve around the Joker. The Joker should never ever care about Harley. I've heard Paul
should only do it in a way that serves him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I've heard Paul Dini say, if anywhere in his black little heart he cares about anyone, I like to think it's Harley Quinn. I don't. I do. If anywhere in his black little heart he cares about anyone, it is Batman.
That's
Harley.
True.
Yeah, Harley is a means to an end for him. Okay, here's a weird thing that, I don't usually talk about. I remember reading, Harley Quinn, erotic fan fiction.
All right, so
and,
originally, this was derailed.
No. There's a point here. I remember reading a thing once, and, I read through about, a couple. I read until it got erotic, and I was like, "Oh, it's one of these," and I stopped. It had a really interesting.
Because who else wouldn't? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, I read to the point where it started to go somewhere, but there was a really interesting opening to it, where it was when we were in the asylum together, he gave me so much attention, and he asked me how my day was, and he convinced me to dress more provocatively at work and all these things. And then, as soon as I broke him out, he didn't pay any attention to me anymore. And I really like that idea. If the Joker is in any way, sexual with Harley, it's only to get something.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think their relationship outside is ever sexual? Because I hear there's loads of controversy in fan bases on both sides about, does the Joker and Harley, do they actually have sex?
Oh, I think that... I think initially they did. I think that there's probably pretty good ground to say that before she trusted him enough to let him out, she probably trusted him enough to sleep with him in the hospital. But again, my read on the Joker and Harley's relationship is he does not care about her whatsoever. He uses her as a means to an end. So any physical interaction, any sexual relations they would have would only be to serve him, and I just don't see how that happens outside the hospital.
Yeah.
And before that point, and then once she's outed as Harleen Quinzel, once people know that she's not once people know what she's been doing as a doctor, that's that side of the relationship obviously dies. So I don't know if he pays her any attention after that. If he does, it's probably just to manipulate her into doing more stuff for him. He probably gives her the most dangerous side of most missions, I think.
Yeah, which I think is also, I don't know if you want to make this as a nice segue, with Harley and Ivy's relationship. Ivy's often seen as using sex as a manipulation tool, and it's odd that she's also attracted to Ivy in mass media as well, as friends or lovers in certain adaptations.
Certainly, and I like the relationship with Ivy as the one where she's actually should be with this person. I kind of like Ivy's the friend. Ivy's kind of in the friend zone at times. I kind of like that idea, and that she's the person that she should ultimately end up with, and she's kind of on again, off again, because she can't help but always run back to the Joker because of how much he manipulated her.
My problems with that sometimes is we see a lot of stories where Ivy is kind of reduced to Harley Quinn's psychic, like the straight man in the act, which I think is a bit... I like Ivy as a villain in her own statue, as a long history, and sometimes I feel like Ivy's just delegated into, this is who Harley Quinn should be, and people forget that Ivy is a villain in her own self.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't like... Ivy being written off as Harley's sidekick or anything. I like them to be more partners
Yeah,
when they've
definitely.
got stories together. And yeah, I think that Harley, again, just works better when there's some context. So just her being with Ivy, the context for the Joker is she's taking a break from the Joker right now. And I kind of like the idea that her and Ivy's relationship never quite works out because she always runs back to the Joker whenever he comes calling. The Joker's totally that guy. Like he comes, finds her when he needs her, because she is actually competent, unlike most of his henchmen. He comes and finds her when he needs her, and at that point is when he puts on the puppy dog eyes and says that he's changed this time, or that's when he does something romantic. It's typical abusive relationship things. I've changed, that kind of crap. And how, you could say it's a problem that if she keeps falling for that stuff, I would maybe say that Harley's biggest problem is I don't think she's as immortal a character as Batman, the Joker, and a lot of the other Batman characters are. Because it's like, the stuff I like to see people do with her, I admit, can get tired and feel like we just would keep doing all the same things over and over again, but we've yet to keep doing that with her on a consistent basis in a way that's interesting, so...
Yeah, there's no middle ground. It's like we can either have new stories, which sadly for the most part aren't very good, or we can have the old stories, which, yes, we've all seen Harley Quinn's origin, but as you said earlier, we've yet to really see an amazing take on that, which obviously, because of the fan base, there's something there.
Definitely, and, it's one of those things where the best Harley Quinn story I've ever seen in the comics is a fan comic. I keep seeing him do this. It's Steven Setjic, Nebezial, or whatever on DeviantArt. He's pretty popular. Like, if you ever seen the image of Green Lantern, like, handing Superman a green rock and Superman freaking out and then, like, it disappearing and Green Lantern going, and Superman's like, Batman? Yeah, Batman. Like that was a joke comic he did, and he's got a lot of stuff like that. He's got his own original content, but he's done just this series of, like, it's not even a full comic or a full story. It's just these really good individual scenes with Harley Quinn that I want to see as a full comic because they're so good.
They really are. And in fact, I think the artist is going to be on the Aquaman books now.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff in that you're saying is just the like one-off scenes of like Harley, of what she actually studied was like people who were traumatized after war, or there's like a nice little metaphor for Alice in Wonderland with Harley and the Joker, and it's these really like gut-wrenching emotional art and like dialogue of what Joker and Harley, like how deep their relationship twists her and like removes her as a human being from being her own entity and just are tied to this absolute creature. Like there's a good image where you see the Joker and she says, I forget the exact line, but she reached out her hand to follow him deeper and deeper into darkness to see the good man, and when she got there he wasn't a man at all.
Yeah.
Really good stuff.
It is. It's some of the best stuff I've seen with Harley, and that's the version I want to have like a point to. It's like, everyone goes, okay, I want to get into Batman, what should I read? And everyone's like, okay, year one or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to be able to tell people, I want to get into Harley Quinn, what should I read? This and only this. And I don't know, maybe that's unfortunate. Maybe it means that you and I are kind of like on the outskirts of what people are attracted to or interested with her in, because lately DC's been doing basically just making her into their version of Deadpool.
Oh, yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, and I mean, I like Deadpool for what Deadpool is, but I don't need Harley to do that, because, again, I feel Harley could be a genuinely interesting character in her own right. Like, what we've talked about, the stuff that can be done with Harley and is just intrinsically there and intrinsically interesting, there's no other character I feel applies to that.
Definitely. And again, they're just kind of ignoring that and instead going for... I can't really see if it's like, is it a resurgence to Deadpool's popularity, or is it their own... Like, the internet age has kind of popularized Harley even more than she was before. And with her, we see so many, like, cute, like, dialogue one-off jokes that Harley does, and you can kind of get how they want to popularize that image because it's easily marketable as, here's this gal who's like the Joker, but she's a friendlier version who can be a hero sometimes and still have comedy. And I don't agree with that at all, because I think it's really... kind of lobotomizing of amazing potential for a character.
Mm-hmm. And that's my thing too, is like I listen to I see things with Harley, and like, what was that series, Little Black Book, that ran for like a couple issues?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't a very good series, but I read one issue where, you know, she puts on Wonder Woman's costume and Wonder Woman, like, her and Wonder Woman switch costumes. Like, yeah, on some level that's fun and enjoyable, but this is all we're getting for the character right now, and that sucks.
It really does.
I want more than just, that was kind of sort of fun, if you don't think about it for more than 10 seconds. I want things that kind of explore the fact that on some level Harley is terrifying. You know, the Joker's always had this thing ever since Killing Joke, and I'd argue even beforehand, of all it takes to reduce the sanest man alive to lunacy is one bad day. Harley should be the example of that.
And she should show how bad you can go. Like, we should see Harley before she met the Joker as... I know there's so many different versions of Harley's origin, and sometimes she's been depicted as she wasn't actually that smart, and she just kind of, like, slept her way through high school. Yeah. But then you get other, like, a fan film that we both equally love, a fan film series, the Joker blogs, has a Harley which is competent, which is, like, kind of an intellectual, like, she's not a match for the Joker because the Joker's a freak of genius intellect, but she can, like, keep up with him. Mm-hmm. And that's what interests him. Whereas then you have her descent, her fall, whereas some interpretations, she's always the bubbly, funny clown girl, and so there is no fall. She just wears makeup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't like that. I want it to be just a rapid transition to where she gets the joke. And like, yeah, you talk about the way that her origin is done in Joker blogs. That's really interesting. I don't like it when they dumb her down to make the Joker, like, you know, twisting her into his little pet. I don't like when they dumb her down, so that's easier for him to do and more quote-unquote believable. I want her to be a competent psychiatrist, and for him to do that to her regardless. I want, like, a story about Harley Quinn to open with a new doctor starting at Arkham, and, like, Jeremiah taking him to Harley's cell and just, like, looking at him and go, look at her. Don't turn in to that. Like, she should be something that all the doctors at Arkham talk about. Like it's like anytime they start to get too sympathetic to a patient, they go, don't be a Harley. She should be in some ways terrifying. And not like in a, oh my god, I'm so scared of Harley Quinn, but in like a, god, I really don't want to be like Harley Quinn. She should never be inspiring. She threw her life away for a man that doesn't care about her. That's not something for people to look up to.
We see so many Joker stories about how he's scary because of how he kills people or the quantity of how he kills people. But the truly great Joker stories are when we see how he destroys people mentally, how he makes them see his worldview of how life is meaningless and empty. And we see him fail at that in Killing Joke, but Harley, we actually see him succeed, and I don't think that's talked about enough. We've actually even an example of where the Joker has convinced someone, yes, you're right, and that's terrifying.
Mm-hmm. And, like, again, I don't like when they dumb her down. What was it? The Batman. The Batman is a fairly good animated series, and it has probably a better Joker as far as writing goes than Mark Hamill's. I know.
Oh,
I've just made some enemies.
Burning fire.
yeah. I know I just made some enemies with that, but I will say I feel that the Joker is written better in the Batman than he was in TAS. But that Harley is god awful. Like, they just make her a talk show host, like a pop psychologist that actually doesn't know what she's talking about. And no, don't do that. The Joker is more terrifying the more competent Harley Quinn is.
Exactly, direct scale.
Yeah, it's like the example I always go to is people that is to tell people to read the original Hannibal, the not Silence of the Lambs, not Red Dragon, but the original Hannibal Lecter book.
Yeah.
Because in that, Clarice doesn't, convince him to cut off his arm so that he can get away. In that, she runs away with him because he's changed her so much. And that should be Harley and Joker's relationship, where he has had such a profound effect on her that it changed her, and it was a slow burn to get her there. So yeah, I feel like the more competent you make Harley, the more scary you make Joker, and the more interesting you make both of them.
So then, do you think if we have, let's just pose this question then, because we're talking about how we haven't had a definitive Harley Quinn story. Say, for some reason, in a hot flush, Tom King wakes up in the middle of his night, marathons Batman the Animated Series, and decides he wants to write the ultimate Harley Quinn story, or any writer of your choice. Where would you, what exactly would you want that to be? Would you want it to be the origin story, or would you want it to be post-origin?
I'd probably go for a little bit of a mix. Again, I don't need Tom King to do it. I just need Steven Sedgwick to sit down and with DC and convince him to let him do a Harley Quinn year one story. And let him go back and forth, because he's got some interesting ideas of what to do with that. But I just need him to sit down and write that fucking story, because this guy's a good ass writer.
Damn.
He's really funny and clever at times, but he also knows how to write, particularly relationships really well. And so it's interesting to see him write a toxic relationship just in those short little moments, that I would love to see him drag it out. And I would love to see, kind of a Nolan-esque jumping around in time with Harley Quinn origin story kind of thing. And for the love of God, just don't throw it in a fucking vat. You don't need it. So yeah, I need that, and I do think the origin is her most fascinating story in a way that it's not with, Superman or whatever.
She's kind of got the Spider-Man thing. It was where the origin is one of the best stories.
Yeah. I think her origin is one of the better stories, but you can certainly do anything with her. Again, I just love the idea of Jeremiah Arkham telling the Doctor, don't turn into this. Because that should be the warning. And also keep in mind, Jeremiah Arkham would not have taken his own advice in that case.
Arkham should just have, before you get to the patients, it should just have the doctors lined up on a wall. Each one, Hugo, don't get too close to Batman. Harley, don't get too close to Joker.
What's his name? Crane, don't get too close to your medication. Yeah, there's a lot of that in there. You gotta take the tour and go see the doctors that have fallen. It's like, am I gonna have a problem with you? Do you see yourself in any of these people?
Just the Arkham briefing needs to be its own series. I was watching.
Yeah, oh my god, I would totally want to write just a one-shot comic that is an interview at Arkham. That would be the greatest thing ever, where it's just Jeremiah Arkham has to interview people for the job.
Definitely.
Oh my god, that'd be great.
And then it ends with a Batman villain, and he's like, "I think you'll be great here."
Oh man, that's a fun idea. I might have to write that one down. Okay, well, we're about half an hour in now, so we've started a segment that is like recommendations for what is out there to watch or read with Harley that you think is just good stuff. So we've talked about it a little bit, but I would say the Joker blogs, and I would say as far as official work, or Joker blogs and the Harleen fan comic, I'll make sure to leave some links down in the description to that. And then as far as official work, one of the best Harley stories that's ever been published in the comics is Joker's Asylum Harley Quinn. So I recommend that issue.
Me too. That's absolutely... in fact, there's a handy little motion comic of that in case you want to scour the web for that. There's some very talented people.
Thank you.
Joker blogs, the Harley Quinn fan comic, and... Joker's Asylum, Harley Quinn, because it's hard for me to try and think of any more because those are just the shining examples.
Yeah, I mean, she's got some stuff. There's some episodes of Batman the Animated Series that are still definitely worth watching. Like her origin.
Honestly, even Mad Love, just so you can get a basic idea of what the elements that work are, and there's some stuff in that episode that doesn't work, but it's a really good episode overall.
Yeah.
And some of the Harley Ivy episodes are really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's definitely stuff out there to read with her or watch with her, but yeah, it's cool character and all, and more people should write her the way I want people to write her.
Isn't that just for everyone?
Yeah, just a general note out there. Write her the way I want you to. That is all.
Exclamation mark.
Okay, well, Alfie, thanks a lot for doing this, man.
No worries, man. Anytime. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, sure thing. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm a geek for fun.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.